But that still didn't get rid of all my symptoms. I was still like irritable bowel, you name it. I was crook as a dog, mate. I couldn't work. I thought I was dying. Everyone that would see me would go, man, what's wrong? Are you dying? Like, doctors didn't offer me anything, couldn't offer me anything. They still to this day can't offer me anything. I'd still work, but I was on the toilet minimum 6 times a day. I'd be shopping and the next minute I got to go, and I'd be in the public toilet just stripping off naked, just sweating, pouring out of me. It was terrible, mate. Terrible. All my nerves in my body I had like spiders crawling over my body. They gave me the allergy prick test up your arms and all that. They put the allergens on your arms. So I reacted to everything. I was allergic to everything.
All right, welcome. Good morning. I have with us directly from Australia, Jason, who's up very early this morning to share his success story with us. Jason, you said you're in New South Wales. I guess you born and bred in Australia. Is that your whole life down there? Or tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I was born in Sydney on the northern beaches. Grew up surfing, playing rugby league. Just a typical Aussie, mate.
Okay, yeah. I played a little rugby union. I used to live in New Zealand and did that for a while. Never did the league stuff, but obviously they're very similar in many ways.
Yeah, I played a bit of rugby, mate.
Yeah. Okay. What do you do these days?
I don't really surf much anymore, even though I still got my board here. But I moved out to about 2 hours from the coast, inland, live in the country, just work, just country life.
Yeah, I guess it'd be tough to surf.
Hunting, guns, stuff.
I was going to say it's going to be tough to surf if there's no ocean nearby.
That's it.
Yeah, that makes it a little challenging. So I guess you've got a bit of a success story to share us. Maybe you can tell us maybe about a health journey, or did you have any health issues that you were able to solve?
It's a pretty long one, but
well, we got some time, man.
I was pretty healthy till my teens, I'd say. And then around 14, 15, somewhere around there, I started getting allergies, hay fever, asthma, those type of things. And then, just struggled along with that for years. Then as I got into my early 20s, I got, what the doctors called chronic fatigue. They didn't know what was going on. I was tested for everything, mate. I had brain scans, cameras here, there, and everywhere up inside me, trying to work out what was going on. They couldn't really work out what was going on. Then I ended up going to endocrinologists and sleep clinics. I had everything going on, mate. I had an operation to rebuild all my nose and remove my upper palate to try and get me to sleep better, because I wasn't sleeping right. I was waking up. When I went to the clinic, I woke up over 40 times through my sleep. I just couldn't sleep. Then from there, the endocrinologist realised it was related to diet.
Okay.
And back then, they had the Royal Prince Alfred Allergy unit. He put me on their protocols and low chemical diet. And then that relieved all my symptoms. And I was on that for about a month. And then 2 weeks clear, then you start introducing foods. I started reacting straight away to chocolate, which is high in amines, biogenic amines. And then, so I cut all amines out of my diet for years, but that still didn't get rid of all my symptoms. I was still irritable bowel, you name it. I was crook as a dog, mate. I couldn't work. I thought I was dying. Everyone would see me would go, man, what's wrong? Are you dying? And from there, years of just up and down, struggling with health issues, all type of. But I got myself back to work. Like, they tried to pension me off, put me on a pension, but I just refused. I said, no, I'm not. I was only in my late 20s or early 30s at that stage. I was, I'm not going to do that. Doctors didn't offer me anything, couldn't offer me anything. They still to this day can't offer me anything. But yeah, so I just managed it as best as I could. I'd still work, but I was on the toilet minimum 6 times a day.
Okay, so this is that's like an IBS type of situation or something like that?
Yeah, when I had the cameras, that's what they said. There's nothing wrong inside. You got IBS. Okay. But yeah, I was like strip I'd be shopping, and the next minute I got to go, and I'd be in the public toilet just stripping off naked, just sweating, pouring out of me. It was terrible, mate. Terrible.
So let me let me just interject a couple questions here, because you said you had surgery to reconstruct your sort of breathing apparatus, as you call it, your maybe nasopharynx or something. But did that help at all, or did it not do anything? Did it not help?
It helped with snoring.
Okay.
but still didn't really fix my sleep patterns up.
Okay. And then this
just helped with snoring.
The low chemical diet that you were on. What did you eat when you were on this low chemical diet?
When you go on the exclusion diet, I'm trying to remember now. It's basically, it was pears in syrup. You can't have it with juice because it increases the chemical content. I'm trying to remember. It was only like 4 or 5 foods.
Pears
really very, very basic.
Pears and syrup, and that syrup's usually like simple.
And real sugary food.
Yeah.
Real sugary food, plain and real high sugar just to give you calories.
Interesting. Okay. And you had some improvement with that, I guess you said.
When I was really sick, it would fluctuate. Like I'd have a few days where I was still sick, but I'd be able to get out of bed, walk around, do it. But then after 3 or 4 days, I'd be sick as a dog, like twitching, like spasming in bed. I had a feeling that like my body was a meter wide, like round, like had feelings like that. All my nerves in my body I had like spiders crawling over my body. It's hard to explain the feelings it was.
Was the thought for the high sugary stuff energy? Was it like because you had chronic fatigue and they're like, this is going to help you with your energy? Was that the thought?
It was just because they're trying to give you some calories.
Okay.
Instead of just fasting, like instead of just saying go on a water fast or something like that, they put you on the low chemical diet.
Okay.
It's online. You can look it up.
So the doctors in your 30s wanted to medically retire you. They said you were in that bad shape, and you said, no, I'm not doing that, which makes obviously at 20s and 30s, that's not typical for people to stop being able to work. What happened with your weight? Were you a leaner person? Were you heavy, overweight at some point, or what was going on there?
At that stage, I was just a healthy guy, mate. I said I was surfing and everything else before I got sick. I used to always work out and stuff in my 20s. I was pretty fit. I wasn't obese or fat or anything like that. And then when I started getting sick, I just started wasting away. I got really skinny, mate.
Okay. And you had the gut issues, and obviously if you're playing rugby league, then obviously you have to be fairly fit to do that. How old are you now, just out of curiosity?
54.
You're 54. Okay. And so you said you went through a slew of different doctors, chronic fatigue, IBS. What other diagnosis did they label you with, or do you remember?
The actual official diagnosis I got was chronic fatigue, multiple chemical sensitivity.
Okay.
So basically, I was allergic to everything. Like they gave me the allergy spring test, prick test up your arms and all that.
Uh-huh.
They put the allergens on your arms. I reacted to everything. I was allergic to everything.
And then medications, did they try to put you on different various medications over time?
No, they didn't know.
Okay, at least that.
They didn't know what
Yeah, sometimes here in the U.S.
they didn't know what was wrong with me, so they couldn't really.
Yeah, sometimes they'll just experiment with take an antidepressant or something like that. That seems to be sometimes the case in the U.S. How was your mental state, by the way, when you had all these illnesses? Was it depressing, or how did you do with that?
It wasn't the best. As I said, at stages there, I thought I was dying. When doctors don't know what's wrong with you, you haven't really got the energy to get out of bed. The only way I could explain the fatigue part, they call it chronic fatigue, but the fatigue part was all the other symptoms that go along with it that was the worst part.
Which were what?
But the actual just allergic to everything. It was like I felt, you ever watch that? Is it old movie Boy in a Bubble? That's how I felt.
Yeah.
I felt like I couldn't go outside. I couldn't do anything. Destroyed.
Would you sneeze or swell, or were you inflamed, or what was a manifestation of these allergies?
In springtime here, spring through summer, there's a lot of grass that grows, and from out here where I am, it grows and it would blow down to the coast, and I would cop it bad. Just continual eyes. My eyes would swell up, sneezing, just snot just pouring out of you. That's just typical hay fever. But yeah, allergic to bees. I got stung by a bee. My foot would swell up for 2 weeks. The whole immune system was just going haywire.
How did you, obviously, if every time you go outside you have these horrible, how did you cope? What did you do?
Most of the time I would snort water up my nose and just wash my nose out and that. I was trying not to put anything in my body that didn't have to be in there. So I was just getting so paranoid. That's my mental state, even to this day, is still, I don't trust my body the way most people just trust their body. I don't trust my body like a normal person would. But since I found carnivore, I've basically can live a normal life now. It's miraculous.
Let me just go back just a sec before we talk about that. What were you eating then if you were in a state where you couldn't trust yourself, everything was problematic for you? What was your diet at that point? Obviously, the doctors didn't know what was going on. You've got chronic fatigue. There's nothing we can do for you. There's no medications. There's probably offered very minimal in the way of solutions. Were you eating it a specific way at that point?
Once I saw the endocrinologist, they just put me on a low amine diet, and they give you a book, and you just follow the book. Don't eat these food groups. And what they say is that it's like a bucket. So once you eat so much amine food, the bucket would fill up in your body, and then you would have a reaction. That's why every 4 or 5 days I would be really sick. Then my body would react. It would flush, like I'd be on the toilet, just flushing it all out. Then I'd get a few days where it wasn't so bad, and then it would build up again, same thing again. So with the low amine diet, you can't, even on carnivore, you can't avoid all amines. It's just, they're in everything.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you're avoiding what are the major foods that you had to avoid to minimize your amide exposure?
Oh, avocados, tomatoes, aged meat, any aged protein, bananas, pineapples, all that sort of stuff. I actually think, you know what, my ex-wife was studying to be a naturopath, so she was researching as much as she could to try and help. You've got to remember, back then there was no internet, so trying to find things was pretty hard. They were saying you need to up your gut enzymes and all that sort of stuff, so they'll put me on pineapples, avocado, everything that was making me sick. They were recommending me to take, so it was making me sicker and sicker and sicker. Basically, if anyone's got any issues like this, just go plain, just eat meat for weeks and your body might calm down. But because of back then they had no idea, I was obviously doing the wrong thing, and it just totally stuffed me up.
Okay, so at what point did you discover that a carnivore diet was an option, or how did you figure this out?
I've always experimented with my diet since I found out it was diet. So I would always introduce different foods and try different things and all that sort of stuff. And then, I don't know, it would be 8 years ago, 9, I can't remember the actual date, but I started listening to podcasts and stuff like that when I was at work, while I was working, and came across the keto diet. And most of them people were talking only for diabetics and that type of stuff. But I heard some people say it was helping with their energy levels and these type of things. So I went keto for, I don't know, 6 years. I couldn't tell you, I wasn't keeping track, but for a long time I went keto, which helped a lot. But it was a very modified keto because I was trying to minimize amines in it. So it was more a meat-based keto, meat and fat-based keto with some veggies thrown in. And that helped a lot in my energy, and I wouldn't react as often. But, yeah, it still didn't fix it. And then 3 years ago, it could be 4 years ago, it's hard to remember, but I started getting problems with my hands, the nerves in my hands, and my hands all swelled up. And they thought I was going to go get my neck fused. They thought it was from my neck. And I went to the Royal North Shore in New South Wales. That's where the leading surgery place is. And they reviewed me and said, we don't think it's bad enough. We've had people with spinal injury that this type of problem. So then they went through my history and that, and they said, we think it's your chronic fatigue. And then they sent me to a rheumatologist in the hospital, and he checked me out for arthritis and all that type of thing, checked me for markers, and said, nah, he hasn't got arthritis. And then same thing again, no medication, no help, just went, you're on your way, mate, see ya. And I was like, oh, here we go again. And then I got on the magic internet and started searching the different foods that I was eating and stuff, and I was eating a lot of fake sugar foods, so a lot of sweetness. And I worked out that phenylalanine is an amine, and that's in Diet Coke, Coke Zero. I was drinking a fair bit of that. So I thought maybe it's that. So I cut that out of my diet, and, yeah, haven't had a problem with my hands since.
Okay, interesting.
But that's when basically then is when I really started going. 2.5 years ago, I just went, I saw you on a podcast on Joe Rogan, and if I'd have been, doctors have always told me you can't live on meat. So to me, it was like brainwashed. I was brainwashed into believing that I couldn't survive just on meat. If someone told me I could just survive on meat, I would have done it years and years ago. So anyway, I went on carnivore, and then, just the amount of things that it's cleared up in my body is amazing.
Okay, maybe if you share some of those, what has it cleared up for you?
Irritable bowel, gone. Like you're talking 25, 30 years of rushing to the toilet, and it's gone. All my hay fever allergies, gone. No, never take any histamine or anything like that. It just, and I didn't take note of it. It just happened as I progressed more and more on the diet. And then I had external piles because of all the pooing I was doing. That healed up. So I no longer have piles. Everything just cleared up and got better and better and better. It wasn't overnight. It was a gradual thing as my body healed. But
how about your fatigue?
Yeah,
chronic fatigue syndrome.
That's gone.
Okay. And so you're on no medications. You've basically, after how many years, 30 years, something like that, you finally feel better. Is that accurate to say for the first time in 3 decades, you finally feel halfway normal?
Yeah, that's 100% accurate.
Isn't that strange? You suffer all those years, and if you would have known that, gosh, can you imagine if you'd have known that 20 years ago? Gosh, you could have avoided probably quite a bit.
That's why I'm on here, mate. Just if I only help one person, if they hear this and think, oh, at least I'll give it a go here, mate. That's the only reason why I'm here telling them it.
What about, I guess let me ask you, what do you eat then? When people always hear carnivore diet, and there's different varieties that people often discuss. What does your diet look like, or what has it been traditionally over the last couple of years?
It started out just beef and lamb mainly, and chicken, but chicken skin is really high in amines. It's like one of the highest foods you can eat. I didn't have any chicken with skin on it, and that's the yummiest part. So mainly chicken thighs. And I used to be a mad fisherman, so I'd eat fish, fresh fish. But basically that's it. And I said I'd already cut all the vegetable oils and all that out through keto. It's just saturated fat.
Just a lot of meat, a lot of protein, a lot of fats. Any eggs or anything like that? Eggs, dairy products, anything like that?
I eat eggs, yeah, heaps of eggs. But that's another thing. They wanted to put me on cholesterol tablets, I don't know, 20-something years ago. Because I said, even though I'd been diagnosed with Gilbert syndrome, which is a problem with your liver. Mm-hmm. I had supposedly high cholesterol, all that sort of stuff. They tried to put me on Lipitor or whatever it was. I tried it for a week, and it upset my gut. So I went, no, it's not worth it. So I just said, if I'm going to die from a heart attack, I don't care.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting thing, because some people are like, their life is uncomfortable that they would rather just not have to feel so bad, and they're willing to change that. Is your weight now, you said you got so skinny because of the IBS and some of the other stuff. Is that normalized now? Where are you at weight-wise? Did you gain weight, lose weight? What happened?
Because I was eating the diet that the hospital recommended, there's a lot of sugar in that diet. Okay. So I put on maybe 15 kilos. I wasn't obese, but I was overweight in my eyes anyway. And most people today would say, oh, no, you're fine. But no, to me, I was overweight. When I went keto, I lost a lot of that weight. And since I don't weigh myself, so I don't know. I only go by my belt. And I've been on the same belt notch for, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years. But yeah, I put muscle mass back on, and yeah, I'm just average guy, mate. Don't work out. As I said, I've only really, in the last 2 years is really the only time I've had enough energy to actually do that if I wanted to. I could go to the gym and do it, but I work a fairly physical job. I'm a metal fabricator, so I'm lifting things and flipping things over. I'm on my feet all day in 40-degree heat, welding and stuff. You can't really say I've got chronic fatigue if I can do that, can you?
Yeah, that's definitely a lot of work. Has there been any negatives, downsides for you eating this diet? Have you had any negative sort of side effects or anything like that?
Say physically, no, only socially.
And when you say, is it just because you go to a gathering and everybody's eating everything else and they think you're crazy or something like that? Is that how that works out?
That's about it, yeah. That's about it. People look at you weird.
What about people that have known you for years? Have they noticed a difference in how you look and feel and act?
People, well, I don't. I've got all new friends out here. They've never known me the way I was. I went through a divorce, and a lot of my family died. So that was another thing that did my head in. When I was just starting to get a bit better from chronic fatigue, my brother got motor neuron disease, and he died really fast within 9 months.
Oh, sorry.
And he had muscle twitching and all that stuff, and that was freaking me out because I used to get muscle twitching. I was thinking, oh no, so my mental state over the years has not been very good at all.
As far as, have you been back to a doctor recently?
I tore my groin pretty bad about 6-7 months ago, and I went to the doctor, and I didn't want to go to the doctor. I'd stay away from doctors, man. I tell you, no offense to you, Shawn, if there was a doctor like you around, I'd be straight there. But the doctors here, mate, they have not been able to find a doctor that can think out of a box. They just follow their protocol, and that's it. They look at me. I say, I just eat meat. I went to the hospital to get it scanned and stuff, and I was fasting for 3 days, and the nurse was freaking out as they took my urine sample and said, "You've got really high ketones." Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, "Mate, yeah, that's normal." She went, "What?" I said, "I've been living on ketones for years." And anyway, we want to test your heart. We want to test this, take your blood and all this sort of stuff. I said, "I only eat meat." And they looked at me weird, and I gave them the rundown. I said, "Mate, my life's not worth living." I said, "If I die from just eating meat, I don't care. I'm just eating meat." They had no idea what any of this world is like. They just live their life, follow their protocol, can't think out of the box. The local doctor has no idea. I went down there only a month or so ago because after months and months of being in pain, I kept re-injuring it, going back to work and re-injuring my groin. I ended up giving up, like getting in a real low mental state. I started taking ibuprofen, and then I had a reaction to ibuprofen. It just tore my stomach and my bowels like you would not believe. And I was back. I was like, man, I feel like I've got chronic fatigue again. I couldn't work out what's going on. And then I've gone back to him, and I said, after research, and I worked out that every symptom that I've ever had is that mast cell activation syndrome. And I said to that doctor, here, I printed it all out for him and gave it to him, and he'd even never heard of it. I said, and he's going, "Can I have your paperwork?" I said, "Mate, you can Google it. It's not that hard." Yeah. So anyway, I went to the doctor only to ask for a medication that's an antihistamine, the old style. I think it's a H2 antihistamine, and he wouldn't give it to me. He said, "No, we don't prescribe that anymore." And he gave me a protein pump or something like that. Yeah, and I looked up the side effects of that, and I went, "I'm not taking that." So then I just went, nah, and just went, that's it. I tried the low allergy diet again. So I was eating, you can eat bread, like homemade bread with no preservatives, all that sort of stuff. So I went back on that for 2 weeks. It wasn't working. I fasted. That helped a bit. I had bright yellow stools coming out of me, man. It was terrible. I was in so much pain internally. And then I just went, all right. It was over Christmas, so the local butcher was closed. As soon as the butcher reopened, I went there. Precious meat, 15 minutes up the road. So I go straight from the abattoir straight to the butcher. So it's only been hung for about a week. So the amines aren't high in that meat. And then I would lightly, very rare, cook the meat and just that. And then within 12 hours, I started to feel relief in my stomach. And then, man, now it's been 6 weeks. And my digestion now is not perfect, but I'd say it's 98%. Still get a little tiny bit of heartburn, just an uncomfortable feeling there. And that's, no medication again, just went straight, just beef and lamb, and that was it. Salt and water. No.
How challenging is it in Australia? I know Australia has plenty of lamb and plenty of beef there. Is it prohibitively expensive there? Or how, obviously you're doing it, but how challenging is it to eat that way compared to, say, a regular diet the average Australian would eat?
When I tell people about it, they go, "I can't afford to do that." And I don't understand their brainwave. They're obviously thinking about how much they're normally eating and how in consumption of food. I can live full lamb chops and a steak for the whole day, and that's it. And that in Aussie food would mostly be, Aussie money would be, lamb chops are like $20 a kilo, and depending what steak you get, Can't afford ribeyes. They're pretty expensive here. But if I just get like a barbecue blade steak, they're around 20 to 24, depending on a kilo. Yeah, when you work the math out, it's cheaper to eat carnivore than it is to eat just, I'll sit down at work with the guys and they'll go to we have a truck that comes in to work, food truck. They'll go and buy a drink and then food and stuff. Every time that truck pulls in, they're $25, $30. And that's my daily food. They're doing it in one serving. It's cheaper,
they're
really.
Probably doing that 2 or 3 times a day overall. So they're probably half of what they're spending, maybe.
Yeah, it's all boredom, mate. It's all people just get bored of eating. They don't. I can understand it if you're healthy and you're living a normal life and life's good. Yeah, I could understand you thinking this guy's nuts. But when you've been through what I've been through, or anyone that has health challenges, to me, it's pleasurable to eat. And I can tell you right now, because I used to, when I went carnivore, I was still drinking coffee. And when I gave up the coffee over like the last month or so, I would crave that coffee. That's just a simple thing as a coffee. I would crave that coffee like an addiction, mate. That was unbelievable. The food is until they actually try it. Once you cut sugar out, totally sugar. Once you cut sugar out, but if you lived on a sugar diet and you cut it out, it is like I used to smoke. It's as hard as cigarettes.
A lot of people say that sugar addiction doesn't exist, and I tell people, well, give up sugar for a month and see how you do. And most people can't do it. Most people, particularly if it's in a mixed diet, because it just keeps reinforcing that. And it's in everything. Gosh, if you go through the grocery store, almost every packaged food has some form of sugar in it, with rare exception. So yeah, it is challenging. It's challenging to give that stuff up. You'd mentioned, how's your mood been? How do you feel mentally? Does it feel like your thought is clearer, your mood is better?
The last 2 years, my mental state, just feeling strong, feeling good. So that's how I hurt myself at work, because I was feeling like I was 18 again. I was lifted something ridiculously heavy with my boss, and so you're not supposed to lift that. And that's how I hurt myself. Realistically, someone like you that works out all the time is built like you, wouldn't most people be an issue. But I'm only like, last time I weighed myself around 82 kilos or something like that. So I was most probably lifting 3/4 of my body weight and walking with it. That's how I did it. But yeah, the other guy who's 10 years younger than me said, I'm not lifting that. No way. That's how good I was feeling. I didn't think I was going to hurt myself. Like that, I was feeling fine, mate. Just normal. Just living a normal life. Happiest I've been in a long time. Just once you have confidence in your body, you just feel like just normal. Life's normal. But when you don't have confidence in your body, everything in life is a challenge, because you can't trust life, really. Yeah,
it's when you're injured or you're sick in some way, it's stressful because you like you said, you feel vulnerable, and it's frustrating to not be able to defend yourself, protect yourself, move quickly if you need to. It increases your anxiety. I know whenever I have an injury and I'm limping around, so I don't like it, because it's not so much the injury, but it's the mental state that's involved in that I don't feel like I'm quite whole in a way. But you talk about avoiding amines or probably histamines and things like that. So if you have like dry aged or older meat, that's still a problem for you. Is that fair to say?
No, not until I injured myself by taking ibuprofen again. The 2 years leading up to that, I was eating everything, anything. I'd even test myself with, occasionally, I grow a lot of veggies and I give them away. This is crazy. I'm really good at growing veggies. So I've got a massive garden here, and it's massive, and I give it to all my neighbours, because I'm like, at least they're not getting pesticides, is the way I look at it. But I'd pick tomatoes and taste them and stuff like that. And because I hadn't eaten chicken wings and chicken drumsticks and all that sort of stuff, for 6 months I was eating mostly way too many. Looking at the oil content, as in the omegas content in the chicken, I was mostly eating way too many, because I hadn't eaten chicken skin in 20-something years, mate. I was like, man, this is like a lolly to me. It was just, I was eating way too many. I was eating a kilo of chicken wings for lunch, which before, if I'd eaten 3 chicken wings, I'd be sick. So I was eating it, and just eating it for months and months and months and months. And same with ham. Ham's really high in amines, and I'd never touched ham or bacon. That's what I said. With keto, it was pretty hard because everyone loves bacon and keto. But yeah, I could eat bacon and eggs, ham, all that sort of stuff. And that's when I really noticed that the ibuprofen had damaged my insides again, because it was Christmas and my wife got a big ham from her work, and I was hoeing into the ham, and yeah, that's when I started getting reactions again.
Clearly, beef and lamb and things like that have helped you with your health. It seems pretty obvious at this point. And I don't know how much it is in Australia. We hear shocking headlines all the time here in the U.S. coming from different parts of the world, so it's hard to say what's actually going on locally. Do you feel like there's pressure to have people in Australia to stop eating meat or cut back, and how does that impact you? Or do you think, is there any pressure for you to do that coming either locally or nationally?
We've been brainwashed for decades, mate. Decades. And it wasn't global warming. It was like the ethical thing, killing an animal, eating it, all that. Yeah, that was big back in the, 20, 30. I actually went vegetarian for about 6 months.
How did that go for you? How did that go for you?
No, that didn't work very good at all. That's when I started that's when my health really started to decline. So I got psoriasis. Do you see that, people? Those hands, I used to have to wrap them in Glad wrap with cream. They would just crack and bleed, and the skin would just peel off. I had it on my hand and my feet, all over me. I had it in my hair, had it everywhere. And I went to specialists, and they said, you're going to have that for life. You said, I buy this little tube of cream for $25. And it was like enough to do my hands and my feet once, application. That was it. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Same thing. I said, I'm not putting up with that. So then I started mucking around my diet. And I know I supplemented selenium and I started having T-bones for breakfast. And yeah, and avoided chemicals as much as I could, which is pretty impossible these days. As in smelly lotions and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it just cleared up and went away. So I should have, if I was smart, I would have realized what I did back then and reapplied that when I got sick years later, because I had psoriasis before I got chronic fatigue.
Yeah, well, so it sounds like the vegetarian thing didn't work out for you very well.
No, it was not a good experience. 6 months, I'll tell you, 6 months, and that's all it took for my body. Didn't like it at all.
Yeah, okay, interesting. How is it pretty easy? I don't know when it was, or so maybe it was from a while ago, where the supermarkets were out of meat. It was completely cleared out, and the only thing was left with these fake plant meats that nobody wanted. Is the food supply pretty? Do you have any difficulty getting? You said you go to a local abattoir or a local butcher. Do you have any trouble at all obtaining stuff?
No, all the supermarkets have meat in them, mate. They're always well stocked. But that's the other thing they package it in those vacuum sealed bags that suck all the air out, whatever. That meat is old. It's full of amines because it's aged. Mm-hmm. It's not fresh. So anyone that has any type of condition like I've got, don't eat that. Eventually, as I said, that was the chicken I could eat. I could eat that bag chicken, which is really high. That's most probably the highest amine food you could eat. And I could eat that, tolerate it without an issue. That was like 15 months on carnivore. Then I started eating that, and it was fine. Didn't have reactions.
Yeah, so the vacuum sealed meat does last longer. You can leave it in your fridge a lot longer than if it's not sealed like you would see. But you don't eat those now because of that. I guess it was a reaction to Tylenol or ibuprofen rather, you said.
Ibuprofen, yeah.
That seemed to injure that. How does, because you said you're 54, you used to play rugby league rather. You probably got some old injuries and aches and pains as most people in their 50s do. How do those feel these days? Do you feel generally pretty healthy with your arms and legs and back and everything?
I was only saying it to the young guy at work. He's struggling. He's got digestive troubles and that. And I keep telling him, but no one listens like normal. And I say, no, I used to have to walk around. This is like 20 years ago or whatever. I used to have to have orthopedic inner soles in my work boots because my legs would ache so bad. I was good now, so when something wrong when they go, oh, yeah, your feet might be a bit flat. So, yeah. So they gave me inner soles and that. It helped a little bit, but not much. Gone. I used to have, with the chronic fatigue, it's quite common, I believe, that people get a lot of It's like chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. So I'd have tender points all through my back, big knots and that. And my neck was in continual pain. I used to get nerve pain all down in my jaw. Like just always here is just stiff and sore and angry, like all gone, mate. It's amazing. I cannot, it's like a miracle. When I started, because I only started really because I was sick of going to the toilet and feeling like crap, like physically. I never thought that all the other little things in my body, I'm feeling like I most probably should have felt in my 30s. That's the easiest way to explain it. Like energy levels, not stiff, not sore. I come home from work, I'm tired because I'm in the heat and that sort of stuff, and I've been working, but I'm not stiff and sore and or anything like that. I just have a shower, go out, do yard work, feel fine, mate.
How hard is it for you to maintain this? Do you like miss vegetables or anything else? Or are you find that you're pretty well just don't feel like that's even necessary anymore?
Once you get rid of the craving for it, and you just accept. I just accept that this is the way I'm going to have to eat most for the rest of my life now. So then, after watching you and Dr. Chafee and all of my own research, because I knew the chemicals in plants 30 years ago, but I didn't understand the whole evolutionary cycle and that I started looking at the way Aborigines eat here, historically, and they would hardly have any plant material really. If they walked past a tree and it was in fruit, they might have grabbed a couple of bits off it, but mainly all they ate was protein. To me, I'm like, that's how we should be eating. I just accept it. The only hard part is the social aspect. You don't get invited out to dinner at a Thai restaurant because there's nothing you can eat in a Thai restaurant. It's all full of soy and whatever else, marinated and sugar, and so things like that. Your social life gets affected. But it all depends if you want to be healthy.
How about barbecues? You guys have a lot of barbecues down there?
Yeah, people have barbies, but I think a bit different than everyone else because of all the years of just researching and doing stuff. I know a lot that goes on in the world, and a lot of people don't understand anything that I talk about, diet, food, anything else that's happening in the world, which I won't mention on your podcast. But so my circle is very small, but I don't care. I'm healthy. I'm feeling good. Life's good.
How is your appetite these days, and how much fat do you go out of the way to eat a lot of extra fat, or how do you deal with that?
If I'm cooking in a frying pan, I normally get my stick of beef lard, melt that in the pan for a while first, and then I cook a steak in the fat, and then chuck butter on top for the sauce and just salt. Lamb's already fatty, so same thing. I put the lard in first, but then I don't worry about the butter on the lamb. I most probably do goat this year. When it cools down a bit, I'll go and harvest a wild one.
Are there a lot of wild goats running around where you're at? Do you go out and catch one?
Yeah, I've got a mate. It's got property not far from here, and
What about kangaroo? Have you had much kangaroo? I know you can get that there fairly easily.
You used to be able to get it, and it's actually really expensive. If you go and shoot one outside, you'll be right. But most people just feed it to dogs. It's very lean, so there's no fat in it. That's the only problem with. It's a great source of protein. It tastes okay. It's very tough, so the same thing. You can hardly cook it. It's on and off. It's on the grill, off the grill. But you got to eat it really rare, which most people don't. But I don't mind it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why do you say it's less common? Is there some prohibition on it, or people don't want it, or why is it not? Because there's still a lot of kangaroos hopping around Australia, I assume.
They're everywhere, mate. It just never caught on. As a food source, I don't understand why. Like you go to Scandinavia, they eat deer meat. That's what's there, you know what I mean? But here, nah.
Maybe because it's
most probably because Aborigines used to eat it.
Yeah.
Most Aussies in Australia are still quite racist towards Aborigines. It's one of these things that I said I don't fit in with people because I think I've had Aboriginal friends all my whole life until later in life, and I grew up with Aborigine guys, and a lot of them raised by whites. That's one of the things the government did. Anyway, here, because anything to do with Aborigines, people look down on it.
So that because
they don't.
that was a source of food for them, typically living out maybe out in the bush and stuff like that. So they would use that.
Yeah, they eat them. They eat anything. They used to eat echidnas, which is a porcupine in Australia. Yeah, porcupine. That's a delicacy food for Aborigines. That's like their Christmas.
Have you ever tried that? Echidna? Have you ever tried that?
No, not. You have to be able to eat that and harvest that. Like a farmer can go out and shoot kangaroos on his property, but you can't just go out and harvest wild animals in Australia. It's against the law. You have to get a license, and we do have some deer here, but there's not that many. There's heaps of wild boar here. Same thing. Aussies won't eat wild boar.
Interesting. You got a lot of snakes.
I work with guys that hunt boar, and they just do it for the fun of killing it. And it's a bit weird in my mind anyway, but they won't eat it. And I say, why don't you try it? Like, it's wild. It's like, yeah, well, that's how food is. But anyway, that's their mindset, mate.
Yeah, certainly historically, that's how food was before we domesticated it. And a lot of snakes. Do people eat snakes over there? You got a lot of snakes running around Australia.
We don't eat them. No, we don't eat them. And everyone hates them because there's a lot of poisonous snakes here.
Yeah, that's what I understand. Like, a lot of bad.
Brown snakes. You see every week or so, someone's got a brown snake in their yard around here. Like they're pretty aggressive this time of year when it's hot.
Yeah, it's the one thing about the Aboriginal population. It's very similar to the Native American population in the U.S. is as they've been exposed to Western diets, their health has just deteriorated so badly. Diabetes has just ravaged all these communities that seem to have had later adaptation of a Western diet. Any Pacific Islanders, Australian Aboriginals, Native Americans, First Nations Canadians, they all get destroyed by diabetes with this sort of Western style diet. And I'm sure that within the Aboriginal population. Is that fair to say?
Yep. No, they were here. They were stuck in. They don't have a treaty here. They don't really have their traditional lands. In America, they had treaties and they have their own land. They're allowed to govern their own selves. Here, they were put in church-run institutions and tried to brainwash them into the white man's way, and that's exactly what they did. So that they didn't understand that. Why would anyone? That's good. That's it. They just grow up eating it and thinking it's normal. They just lost connection to their land. There's still some people in remote areas that still do it. I like watching them online. They go out and hunt and show you how they used to do stuff. And I find that enjoyable to watch and look up.
How popular has low carb become in Australia? I know there's a low carb down under conference that I'm aware of. Is it growing in popularity or is it still a very minor thing?
The media won't cover it, mate. That's all it is. The mainstream media is a disease in the world. I'm telling you. This is like a miracle for what it's done, for what low carb has done for people. It should be on the TV every night and covered all the time. I've never seen it on any mainstream covered ever.
Sometimes in a negative light, they'll cover it in a negative light. You'll see that they'll criticize it. But yeah, I think, I don't know.
Saturated fat still kills you.
Yeah, that seems to be the sort of belief system there. I would imagine much of the Australian television show, they take advertising, and probably most of the advertising is coming from Sanitarium, Coca-Cola, PepsiCo, and all these companies that advertise heavily on there and want to sell that.
Yep, just the same as the US, mate.
Yeah.
We're just a mini version. We're more controlled.
As far as the media not really wanting to cover this, I do see a discrepancy there. And there's some really, really interesting studies that have come out and that I think have been very impactful that should be covered, and they're just ignoring them completely, it seems like. What do you participate in, like social media at all? Do you do any stuff online with the social media stuff
regarding carnivore and stuff?
Yeah, sure.
Nah. I never used to even get my face on camera. I'm not that type of person that likes to have a famous face.
Okay.
But recently I've decided I'll try it, try and see how I go. But I haven't really spoken out much about carnivore, only because I see there's already a heap of it on YouTube. There's heaps of influencers. If anyone wants me to go on their show and talk about it, if you're watching and you reach out, I'm happy to have a chat and spread the word that way. But I thought making a channel and all that, I thought there's so many people doing it already. Surely people must find it. Every person doing it helps, but I don't know. I might get more into it.
Yeah, like I said, if the media is not covering it, you have to get that information out there somehow. And I certainly appreciate you coming on here to share your story because, like you said, as you said, if it helps one other person with something similar, it's worthwhile doing. Because have you been able to influence anyone in your life to consider this? Has anybody seen you and said, "Hey, let me try that for a month" or something like that?
Not one.
Not one, huh?
Not one. Not even my wife, who's seen it all happen unfold in front of her. Who's a doctor?
Yeah.
She's an overseas trained doctor, so she's not allowed to practice in Australia. But yeah, she's seen the health benefits on me, and she's addicted to sugar, mate. Like, it's that simple. She's from Indonesia, and over there, it's all everything's rice and chilies. So
yeah, I was in Malaysia, and I think
she does eat a lot more. Her diet has gone from that now. It's made because she lives with me. I'm at the butcher every second day, so she eats meat all the time now, like mainly. But she still splurges and has her favorite rice and stuff every few days. But her diet has changed a lot. But
so at least she, like I said, it's sometimes it's being the example and them seeing you feel better where they continually maybe feel worse. This can be influential. Jason, we're about out of time. I really appreciate you coming on. I thank you for getting up early in the morning. I know that's a crazy time for Australia to do this at 4:00 in the morning, but thank you so much for being here.
No worries. I just want to thank you and all our Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Chafee, all of you doctors that have come out and speaking about this. To me, you guys are heroes. If there was more doctors in the world that thought like you guys, the world would be a much better place. It's all I can say. Thank you so much.
We're trying to spread the word. Thanks so much. Take care, man.